Every single second of your life, your body is performing a little miracle you probably don't even notice: breathing. So in this explainer, we're going to dive deep into the incredible respiratory system and find out how this one simple act fuels your every single move.
Go ahead. Why don't you take a breath with me? Just a deep one. In and out. Believe it or not, that simple action kicks off this incredible journey. We're going to follow that single breath as it travels deep inside your body, delivering life-giving oxygen and, just as importantly, carrying away the waste.
Okay, so to really understand this journey, we're going to need a map. The best way to think about your respiratory system is like a super efficient superhighway, one that's designed to get air from the outside world deep into your lungs. So this highway basically has two main parts. First up is what we call the conducting zone. You can just think of these as the pipes: your nose, your throat, your windpipe. Their job is to warm, moisten, and clean up the air to protect the really delicate tissue in your lungs. Then there's the second part, the respiratory zone. Now this is our destination. This is where all the magic happens, the actual exchange of gases. And here's something kind of wild. Not all the air you breathe in actually gets used for that gas exchange. Nope, about 150 milliliters of it just fills up the pipes of that conducting zone. It's called anatomical dead space because, well, it's not really involved in the breathing process itself. All right, so we've traveled down this superhighway, and now we're pulling into our destination. Millions and millions of these tiny little cul-de-sacs right at the very end of the road. This is where the real action is.
We're talking about the alveoli. These are the microscopic workhorses of your lungs. You have something like 300 million of these tiny, balloon-like sacs. And get this, if you could somehow lay them all out flat, they would cover the area of a tennis court. All that surface area is absolutely critical for the exchange between the air you breathe and your bloodstream.
Now, each of these little sacs is lined with a dedicated team of cells. First, you've got the type 1 pneumocytes. These are the main workers. They form the incredibly thin walls of the alveoli, which is perfect for letting gases pass right through. And then you've got the support crew, the type 2 pneumocytes. They do something completely different, but it is absolutely vital.
They produce a substance called surfactant. Think of it like a detergent for your lungs. See, the inside of the alveoli is moist, and that moisture creates surface tension that wants to make these tiny air sacs collapse. Surfactant's job is to break that tension, which allows the alveoli to stay open. Without it, breathing would be unbelievably difficult, if not totally impossible.
Okay, so we know where the air goes. We know what happens when it gets there. But what's the engine that's driving this whole process? I mean, how do we actually move the air in and out of our lungs in the first place?
Well, it all comes down to pressure. It's pretty elegant, actually. To breathe in, your diaphragm, that's the main muscle for breathing, it contracts and moves down. This makes your chest cavity bigger, which lowers the pressure inside your lungs. And since nature hates a vacuum, air from the outside just rushes in to even things out. Then to breathe out, the diaphragm just relaxes. The natural elasticity of your lungs makes them spring back, pushing the air out. So get this. Inhaling is an active process, but exhaling when you're resting is completely passive.
And this system is incredibly efficient. With just a normal, quiet breath like the one you're taking right now, you're only moving about half a liter of air in and out. This is what we call your tidal volume, and it's really all it takes to keep you going.
And now we've reached the most critical part of our entire journey. The whole reason we even breathe. We're talking about the great gas exchange. The moment we deliver fresh oxygen to our bodies and get rid of that waste product, carbon dioxide. The principle at work here is just simple diffusion. Gases always move from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. You've seen this before, right? It's like putting a drop of food coloring in a glass of water. It just naturally spreads out. This whole process takes zero energy. It's just physics happening across that super thin wall between the alveoli and your blood vessels.
So that air you just inhaled is packed with oxygen, right? That creates a high concentration in the alveoli. The blood coming to your lungs, though, is low in oxygen. So naturally, oxygen just flows from the air right into your blood. At the exact same time, that blood is carrying a lot of carbon dioxide. And since there's very little CO2 in the alveoli, it moves out of the blood and into the lungs, ready for you to just breathe it out. It's amazing. Two different gases moving in opposite directions all at the same time.
To make sure this whole process is as efficient as possible, your body uses something called the V/Q ratio. It sounds technical, but it's pretty simple. V is for ventilation. That's the air flowing into the alveoli. Q is for perfusion. That's the blood flowing to those same alveoli. Your body is constantly working to match these two up, making sure that blood gets sent to the parts of the lungs that are getting the most air. It's a perfect little supply and demand system.
So, who's the conductor of this amazing orchestra? I mean, you don't have to sit there and remember to breathe, right? Something is running the show for you, automatically. And that something is your brain, the unseen conductor of this whole system.
Deep down in your brainstem, in areas called the medulla and the pons, you've got these respiratory control centers. They're the ones that generate the basic rhythm of your breathing, automatically adjusting how fast and how deep you breathe to meet whatever your body needs at that moment, all without you ever having to think about it.
So what do you think is the main trigger for you to take a breath? Most people would guess it's a lack of oxygen, but that's not actually the case. The primary driver, the most important stimulus for breathing, is the buildup of carbon dioxide in your blood. Your brain is incredibly sensitive to CO2 levels, and even a tiny increase will trigger that urge to breathe.
So from that superhighway of air all the way down to the microscopic gas exchange, all of it orchestrated by the brain without a second thought, the respiratory system just works. It does its job flawlessly, billions of times over a lifetime. It is an absolute masterpiece of biological engineering. Which really leaves us with a pretty profound question. What happens when this perfectly balanced system gets disrupted?